Hello everyone, I guess hopefully you're having a wonderful day / week. We are here with a weekly review of the Fanatics auction site where we'll be going through the top 100 soccer items auctioned off this week, a nice little Christmas edition. As always, if you enjoy these videos, do make sure to leave a like, helps me, helps the channel. With that said, let's go ahead and skedaddle on over there. So getting going on this weekly. This week we start at $100, or right about at $100. A little lighter of a week this week, but still a pretty good one, I would say, generally speaking, for a Christmas / holiday week. So we start with an Erling Haaland tri-sticker here for 91 bucks. We got this gold Messi refractor from 2018 Finest. Cornerstones goes for 93. This Rivaldo for 93 was pretty low, so if you were the buyer of that, congrats. So those have typically been pretty high, but I mean, a 4 did go recently for like 60 to 70 bucks, so this wasn't insanely out of line. I do think it didn't look great for a 5, like it definitely looks like a 5, so 93, seemingly a decent price, at least compared to comps in the past, and, you know, for the player as well. Not a lot of these coming out as of late. There was a pretty good run of them last year, I would say. Moving on up above that, we have this 2010 Messi that we see a good bit. This in a PSA 9 goes for 98 bucks with only 5 watchers, which is decently impressive. This Kylian Mbappe 10 goes for 98. We'll talk more about these chrome refractors, or non-refractors. This is a base, but we'll talk more about the refractors as we go. Then we have this Pedro Gold that sold for 103. Pretty cool one there from the Donruss 2015 inaugural set. We have a David Beckham that we've seen a good bit. These have seemingly dropped, and, you know, probably rightfully so. More and more have come to market. There's only 8 watchers on this one. But yeah, 103 on that doesn't seem too high compared to what we've seen in the past. Musiala auto there at 112. This 97, the 79 crack Diego Maradona. It says rookie. That's an egregious labeling. I'm just going to lambast Fanatics whenever I get the chance on these rookie labels, because it's just preposterous and ridiculous. I mean, 1979, not even close to rookie. I know people talk about that for the Panini sticker. That's because it's the first Panini and actually has some sort of relevancy. I mean, this is literally a remake of the one the year before, which wasn't even a rookie, but is sort of, you know, near whatever. It's so stupid. 117 on that. I don't think anyone's really paying rookie prices on that, but kind of goes to show that you're not even really adding anything by throwing in rookie there. I mean, other than maybe fooling people every now and then. I don't get it at all. I'll talk about it in a second, but I think Fanatics just doesn't care about soccer, and that's, you know, sort of a shame, I would say. Next to it, we have a Kai Havertz Kaboom, goes for 117. The Zidane PSA 10 for 117 as well. These have been a little bit lower, at least compared to where I've seen it in the past, but they've also had sales lower than this, so I don't think it's a bad sale, but just to say that the stars in the set have dropped a little bit. Above that, a 2014 Prism Auto here of Rijkaard in a 9.5/10 grade, goes for 120. Seems like a good buy there if you're into that type of stuff. Lionel Messi Mundi Chromo, PSA 9 from 2011, goes for 120. We also have a Kaboom Paul Pogba for 120 as well. Seems like a good price. I don't see a lot of Paul Pogbas in these auction blocks, but that one makes it, presumably because of the Kaboom labeling. Above that, we have a lot of Clark & Son in this weekly. I'm not too familiar with a lot of the early English guys. Just not really my jam. So I can't add a whole lot there, but some good prices, and we'll see even more of those as we go. Even one right above that as well. We have a PSA 6 Thierry Henry, goes for 132. We'll talk more about these as we go, because there's a 9 that sells later, but this 6 for 132, I guess just important to keep in mind that a 6 sells for 132 when we talk about the 9 later, but yeah, comparable sales have been pretty close to this. I think this is a little light, but within the ballpark. I was sort of shocked by this. I mean, Erling Haaland field level gold out of 10 goes for 144. You know, I'm not even a Haaland guy, to be honest, but at least to me that seems attractive. Maybe I'm just out of touch with modern, ultra modern, but, you know, I mean, 144 on that, comparatively to what I see in a lot of other modern. You know, I mean, would I rather have an out of 10 select field level gold Erling Haaland or a Paul Pogba Kaboom? I mean, it seems pretty easy to me. Above that, Johan Cruyff Vanderhoot, 68 through 70, it should be labeled, but it's only 68 on here. PSA 2 goes for 144, which is within the range. Typically, these are 100 to 200, depending on how they look. We have another Clark & Son here. PSA 6 goes for 150, and finally a Buffon 910 grade that goes for 150. Again, if you're into that type of stuff, seems like a good deal. I did quickly look it up earlier, and apparently a PSA 9 with a 10 auto went for 250 recently, and even just PSA 9s go for 200 without any sort of auto grade, so I think 150 on that's not too shabby. On page 3, we start with an EDI Massapus here. It goes for 150. Pretty sure I looked that one up, and I did. I sorted by highest price ever just for a Massapus, and essentially it's one of the higher sales that you'll see here, top 6 all time in terms of price. This one goes for 150. We have a PSA 4 that did 210 earlier this year. And the Lampo Calcios are labeled as 1962. I think they're 62, 63. So, maybe this is a truer rookie. I'm not sure exactly on the Massapus rookie constellation how that works out. But from what I can tell, there haven't been any earlier sales within the catalog here. So that one seems like a rookie, but doesn't have a rookie designation. So who knows? I don't. You got a Mirror Tuta Sport Pele next to it, 2.5, goes for 150, along with a 67 FHER Eusebio for 156. Another black label Topps Now Messi that we've seen quite a bit the last few weeks. A Rui Costa 1992 Calendarios Panini release here, PSA 8 goes for 162, and looked this one up. Last 8 did 198, so a little bit down from that one. Sort of surprised to see this PSA 7 go for 144, at least to me, as someone that's not all too familiar. A calendar type of release would seem to be a little lackluster comparatively to what seems like more of a traditional release in this Panini Football 92-93, but just sort of interesting to see that. I do think the red helps it here as well, and the higher grade's always going to do a little bit as well, but 8.5 before did 324. This one does 162, so, a little light, but at the same time, not crazy low. Above that, a 2001 Nuno Gomes Panini Foot PSA 10 goes for 174. Feels like a pretty good price. A lot of the time, you can kind of just tell based on watchers if something sold strong or low, at least compared to the overall demand. We've seen a Zlatan PSA 10 go for $1,000, and generally speaking, comparing the players, I don't think they're anywhere close, obviously, so, I think a 5x multiplier would be light compared to most things. Robert Lewandowski PSA 9 goes for 174. We have a Martin Odegaard 2016 auto here, Global Icons from Spectra, goes for 180, and that at least is a notable card to me. I've seen it a good bit in the Arsenal collector sphere, so fairly notable one there, and that goes for 180. There will be another huge sale later for Odegaard. Another Clark & Son here goes for 186. We also have a patch Erling Haaland for 186, and this Messi in what is a PSA 7, which is why it gets the low price, at least comparatively to Messi stuff. A 2015 inaugural Donruss set out of 25 typically is going to do a good number. PSA 7 seemingly takes that down a good notch. Above that, PSA 4, PSA 5 of a couple Messi rookies. Really good prices on those, I will say. I think the 5 was probably the steal between the two. The greens are harder to grade, and the whites, well, at least in this scenario, is a grade lower, so I think that the 5 was the better deal of the bunch, but still some good prices here. There were times where, 7s or 8s would go in the 300 to 400 range, so seeing 4s and 5s above 200, pretty impressive, I would say. It seems like the low-grade Messis and mid-grade Messis are really, really strong. The higher grades are getting a little momentum, but at the same time not doing a whole lot. This Zlatan 2023 Topps Museum goes for 216. Zlatan autos are at least something that came out somewhat recently in the hobby sphere, so those have been well received by the general public. This is a sticker. They do a pretty good job at sort of hiding that. But yeah, I just don't like autos like this, man. I mean, when it's basically just a loop with a little line in between, it doesn't have a whole lot of character for me. So 216, not a crazy price, but at the same time, not anything I'd be interested in, to be honest with you. Obviously, everyone can do as they please. I'm just saying, to me, that auto is just abysmal. And maybe people don't mind it, but to me, I almost take offense to it. I mean, they're signing things that, if they don't want to sign, just don't sign. But I guess that, for whatever reason, surely money. I don't know if it's relationships as well. I don't know what the main goal here is. I would assume money. But it's like, if you're going to sign, at least sign, And Zlatan obviously isn't the type of guy to probably care all that much. But a lot of players are becoming this type of player where they just don't care at all. And to me, it's just disgraceful. So I'm not into that type of stuff. He has earlier career autos that look cool, but that's all like on card and hard to find, or maybe even in person, so it's not easy. But nonetheless, we'll keep it moving. A vintage row above this, we have a 1931 Lambert and Butler footballers. Eric Brook, no clue on this one. Only 3 watchers, gets 234, which is a really strong price for only 3 watchers. They really wanted that, whoever it was. 62 Calcio Mondial Pele goes for 234 and a 2.5. Really good colors on that one compared to what I see generally. PSA 4 Messi, the blue one, almost always getting a premium here, goes for 252, which is $40 higher than the white in the same grade and $40 higher than the green in a grade higher. We have a 2009 Extra Class Robert Lewandowski rookie, which is certainly not a rookie, and both PWCC/Fanatics should know that, and certainly the seller of this knows that. So, I find it interesting that both parties just go with it and label it as a rookie and sell it as is. So 264 on that one. I hope they're all proud of themselves and happy with that. So good job. It's a PSA 10 second year, so if you want it, 264 for a Pop 101 seemingly is cool, but at the same time, I've barely seen any of these second year Lewandowski's ever hit market, so I think that it's just something that comes out. It's kind of niche, but if a lot more came out, I don't know if it's necessarily going to do numbers like this. But nonetheless, 2017 Panini Immaculate Harry Kane. Weird decision here to get the auto graded, or the card and auto graded, because it's an authentic with an auto 9, so I don't think that adds a whole lot, if anything. But goes for $276 there, which, seemingly is an okay price. Above that, $276 for this PSA 10 Messi. We see a good bit. Goes for a decent number with only 15 watchers. Next to it, a couple Frank Lampards here. Take your pick of the Flawless Signatures Gold out of 10 BGS 9, or the 2015 Momentous Frank Lampard out of 25 patch auto. From what I remember, though, the patch in this is a Man City patch, so that at least is not going to be as desirable to many as you would imagine Frank Lampard would be. So I think that that's a good factor here and why the patch doesn't do a whole lot of a premium over the card itself. There'll be another one here in a second on page 2. But we start with a couple kabooms and a red Kylian Mbappe. Take your pick in this row. I probably red Kylian Mbappe for me, but I did find it interesting that a Kaboom Modric is basically, it's the same grade, basically the same price as a Kaboom David Beckham. And to me, I know David Beckham has some fandom, but honestly, when you look at early David Beckham cards, it doesn't feel like it. Like when you look at his pre-modern stuff, there's not a lot of people paying good money for David Beckham. But as you get to modern, there's people paying good money for David Beckham. I don't quite get it, but $300 for what is a decade after post-playing career, insert case hit. I don't get it. I take the Modric every single day of the week comparatively. I'd probably take the Mbappe in the middle just because it's, at least a bit more meaningful to me. I also will admit I'm not a Kaboom guy. I know there are people that are, a lot of people seemingly as well. But I just can't shake that pre-boom. Kaboom was almost irrelevant to some degree, and now it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest thing that everyone talks about. So to me, I just don't feel comfortable with that, which is why I tend to weigh. But in this scenario, I just don't get the David Beckham love. Man United, I get it. This is Croatia. How many Croatia collectors you have? It's a good argument, but man, just strange to me. Above that, in this row, we have the Frank Lampard that I was talking about. This is the top of the class out of 15 Ruby that goes for $312. Next to it, take your pick here between the Kylian Mbappes. You have a PSA 9 Refractor from Topps Chrome or a PSA 10 Unlimited Potential. Personally, I think I like the Refractor there. Typically, I've always wondered, are the refractors priced right? Is the Topps Chrome priced right? But when I see this, it makes me feel generally good about it, I would say. Above that, a little strange here, or at least in my mind, you have the Mbappe Gold Panini World Cup sticker from 2018 PSA 10 that goes for more than the refractor. So I don't know if that's a new thing, but to me, at least, it's probably been a long time before that's been a thing, because during the boom, people weren't chasing this gold and paying thousands upon thousands for it. They were for the refractor. So yeah, that is a pretty interesting result to see. Next to it, we also have a couple Pele's. This Calciatore, you see a decent bit. PSA 5 goes for $324. The Imperial Calcio, not as much. A PSA 2 goes for $324. Took a peek at that one here. I guess I also did take a peek at the Mbappe price chart. And yeah, it's not going all too great all time. If we look over the last year, down 8% and some of the lowest sales that we've seen yet. So not too great there, and part of why maybe it seems like a decent buy comparatively to some other Mbappes at the moment. Of course, it's all within its own sort of sphere. I'm not out here gobbling these up by any means, but yeah, the Imperial Calcio doing about what it does. PSA 2 here, as you can see, $324, $288, $384 for eye appeal 1, $384 for an eye appeal 1 as well, $301. It's basically always in this range, so holding pretty steady there. Moving on up, another David Beckham here. Sticker auto goes for $350. Feels pretty strong to me. PSA, what is that? PSA 810. Next to it, a tie-dye Cristiano Ronaldo out of 30. PSA 9 goes for $372. I thought this was a fair price, but then I did see it was a pop 1 of 9, none higher. So for the highest grade, that actually seems like a relative deal compared to what I see other types of stuff of Ronaldo, Select, tie-dye, all that good stuff go for. 1974 Ediraf Calcio, Johan Cruyff, it goes for $384 in a 5.5. Wanted to look this one up, and I'm glad I did, because actually it sold for a really, really strong price here. This goes for $384, and the last sale was $372 for a PSA 8 with an eye appeal sticker, and that was a year and a few months ago. So that's the important part here, is that none of these have sold in a year and a few months. So almost 15 months without a sale, and now a 5.5 selling for what a PSA 8 went for. Now, this might pull a couple out, might test the market, might bring some more out there to see if they go for that price. I'd be interested if it does, because before, in 2023, there was seemingly almost 10 sales in a year's time. and then you go to one sale in 15 months time. And so I can see why it did that. I'd be interested if that holds up, because I mean, even here, I mean, a PSA 8 with the eye appeal, $234. I mean, that's just crazy. So $384 on that one, really strong price, and again, interested if that keeps up. Above that, in this row, a couple out of 5 reds here. You have a red Wave Erling Haaland along with a red Perlers Topps Chrome Messi, goes for $420. Doesn't strike me as a crazy, I mean, it's obviously a decent price, don't get me wrong, but in terms of Messi type stuff, a red Topps Chrome MLS, all that good stuff, for how excited everyone was for him to come here, an out of 5 red insert only doing $400. Not that crazy. I guess it is a PSA 8, so I'll give it that. The icons here, PSA 9 patch goes for $420. That's event worn, so, you know, I don't know what event, but event worn nonetheless has a little bit of meaning in that regard. Row above that, we have a refractor 9.5 Kylian Mbappe for nearly $500, a gold Donruss Messi out of 10 for nearly $500 as well. And then a pretty high price here on this 7.8 crack Maradona. PSA 1 goes for $480, and typically these do $200, $300, sometimes lower, sometimes higher. This does have a top 30% eye appeal, which isn't, I mean, a crazy eye appeal sticker. Colors look good, corners look good, edges look good. I mean, a lot of it looks good. Back doesn't look terrible. It's clearly removed, but, you know, I think that that is a pretty strong price, I would say. In this row, we have a 2021 red Cristiano Ronaldo out of 10, goes for $492. And a PSA 9, we have the Lampard patch auto here from Flawless, 10 out of 10, goes for $504 with what seems to be an A from Lampard. And then finally, a Mia Hamm orange PSA 10 goes for $528 from Nobility. And then to end off, page 2, we have a 2024 Leaf 1 of 1 auto, goes for $552. We have a 1991 Pep Guardiola PSA 9 for $564, and a Gunnar Gren PSA 1 for $588. I looked up both the Guardiola and the Gren, I do believe. So the Guardiola PSA 9, I mean, you know, not out of line, I guess. PSA 8 lasted $300, PSA 7 did $250. But in regards to 9s themselves, these have dropped a good bit. So the first one in 2022, kind of the prime of pre-modern, went for $1,200, then a PSA 9 went for $660, then another one for $564. To me, it doesn't seem like the type of thing you want to see in a sticker, at least if you're looking for appreciation. But if you're looking maybe to get in at a low point, maybe grab a deal, you could sort of make that make sense in your head. I just do wonder with this type of stuff. I mean, $1,200 during the boom on like some other big players like Iniesta, Xavi, the ones that sell a bit more frequently, they've dropped a ton, like 90% for what they were in the boom, while Pep Guardiola's only gone down 60%. And I kind of wonder with that, because obviously managers are just tough in general, and Pep's not having a great run of it at the moment. And these are the types of items that, you know, before Pep really took off as a manager, no one was really buying. So, I mean, it's cool. I like seeing it, at least in terms of just seeing people enjoy soccer and buy stuff they like. But at the same time, to me, it seems like a strong price, generally speaking, although it is down a little bit for sure. Then along with that, the Gunnar Gren, we only had one other comp to go off of, and that was just a few months ago on eBay. It was not the same copy, but this one went for nearly $900, and we have this one going for $600. So this is a PSA 1. To be fair, this might grade higher than a PSA 1, but I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. Definitely something you don't see all too often, goes for $588 there. So with that, we head on to page 1, starting off with a bunch of modern here. 2021 gold Ronaldo out of 10 from the Donruss Road to the World Cup. This is the Optic. Goes for nearly $600. We also have an out of 50 gold Jamal Musiala PSA 10 Merlin that goes for nearly $600 as well. Looked that one up, and from what I could find, I could only find one sale of the true gold PSA 10. Maybe there's a lot of 9s or something like that. The atomics are all over the place, though. And yeah, the atomics, I mean, are going for $735, $725, $700, $850. So those are going for pretty good numbers this year. This one goes for $588, and at least in my mind, I'd rather have the true gold over a gold atomic. I do know the gold atomic probably looks pretty good as well, so it's got that going for it. But true golds are always going to win out in my mind. Again, I'm not the guy that makes these decisions, but you know, if I was someone purchasing this type of stuff, I would say that this seems like a relative deal compared to the others. Then we have a Julian Alvarez red out of 5, goes for $600 here from 2022 Topps Chrome and a PSA 9. Above that, in this row, we have a crack Maradona PSA 2 for $630. Feels like the better deal between this and the caricature. Just paying $130 more. Now, you don't get the eye appeal, but you do get a grade higher, so take that into account. 2023 red Ultimate Stage Cristiano Ronaldo PSA 10 out of 5 goes for $750. We also have this 1 of 1 of a rookie that I haven't heard of. Maybe I'm just not too into the weeds, but that goes for $750 there, which seems like a good price. Above that, we have another Clark & Son here. Rhinesbeck is a name that I have heard, so at least, you know, that rings a bell. PSA 6 there goes for $780. Pop 1 of 1, none higher. Pretty cool to see that go. 1970 1976 Graf Socrates rookie, PSA 2 miscut, and pretty severely miscut. You can see the top bottom is off, even left to right's off. That goes for $780. You see one or two of these a year, and wanted to go ahead and check the prices. So at least compared to these, seems like it did a pretty decent price. The last PSA 1 did $1,100. A 2 with a miscut's probably less than a 1 or around about a 1. I mean, depends how you want to view it. So I could see why that does a little bit less. I mean, even before PSA 5 miscut did $1,400. So, you know, half the price and you go from a 5 to 2 makes sense, or at least seems like a decent price in my mind. Keeping it moving, we have a select aluminium all field level out of 20 PSA 10 that goes for $870. Above that, you have a terrace tie-dye aluminium all out of 30 PSA 10 that goes for $900. Me personally, I am a tie-dye guy, so I can see why people like the terrace, but I'd probably take the white field level. You know, it's 10 less, it's field level. I think that's nice. But both those do decent numbers. We also have this Clark & Son Geo Smith PSA 4 that goes for $930. Again, you know, not all that familiar with English stuff in general, but this is certainly one of the names that I'm more familiar with in terms of early English releases. See them all over the place, and cool to see them in this set as well. 2017 Variation Refractor Messy PSA 10 goes for $930. Then we have a tie-dye aluminium all PSA 10 for $1,050. I didn't even sort of mentally note that before, so that, yeah, I mean, that went for, you know, a good decent bit higher than the white out of 20, which is interesting. Now, to be fair, I will say I also like tie-dyes, but this is at least more hobby relevant in the sense that the tie-dyes have been out of 30 for a long time, while the whites have moved around a bit. The camos used to be out of 20, now it's the white. The white used to be out of 99, so there's just a lot of that going on. I also think, just generally speaking, tie-dyes are kind of nice looking in the sense that you get a rainbow on a card, so I can see why it does more. I don't know if it necessarily should, but, you know, the hobby sort of spoken on that one. Then we have a Thierry Henry 1996 Mejores Equipos de Europa in a PSA 9 that goes for $1,400, which was a pretty good price, at least I thought, because it went for basically the same price as the last one, and that had only sold a couple months ago. We sort of tested a lot of PSA 9s this year. I mean, if we look before, there was basically none in the sales history, and then this year you get this PSA 9, you get this PSA 9, you get this PSA 9, you get this PSA... So you got 4 PSA 9s. One of them, for some reason, doubled the price of the comp before it. You know, some of that stuff seems to happen sometimes in this type of stuff. Draw whatever you want from that, but yeah, I mean, seemingly decent prices on these, considering we've seen 4 of them go, and also considering PSA 8s, if we look, are like between $250 and $380 on their last couple sales. So, like, average that out, PSA 8's around $300. A PSA 9 doing almost 4 times an 8. You don't see that a whole lot, especially on a second tier type of sticker. Clearly the foot is the preferred rookie of Thierry Henry, and so, at least to me, it seems like a really strong price. Also in the really strong price camp, I mean, a PSA 2 red and blue back Franz Beckenbauer goes for $1,500. I personally love the 1970 World Cup set. I can see why other people do as well, but the reason I was so taken aback by this is purely just based off the Pele comps. I don't have them here, but we've seen them in the past. Pele red and blue back stuck typically go for, I don't know, like 500, like 400 to 700, somewhere in there, you know, a good number, but not this, and this in a PSA 2 does 1,500. Now, I will say, when I went and looked at it, looks pretty good. Like, you can't clearly see why this is a 2. I mean, obviously it's off center, but the corners look good. It is a hand-cut item, so in theory, you could cut it again. There is some sort of, like, discoloration, potentially. I'm not too familiar with exactly what the Beckenbauers look like, but it does seem like some yellowing going on maybe on the front. Maybe that's it. You could also clearly say that the back is stuck somewhere, but as to where, I don't know. I mean, maybe the top's a little discolored, but for 2, looks really, really good. So I could see why, if people are buying the sticker or the card and not the grade, that gets the number it does. But just looking at that comp in a bubble looks really high. So $1,500 on that one. Let me know what you think about that. Just interested to hear some other thoughts. Don't want to hear what anyone has to say about this, because I don't know if anyone has anything to say. This thing's run now like 6 times in the last year or 2. And I don't know if it's ever even found a home. I don't know if it just keeps getting run. It's only got 15 watchers at this point, but somehow still makes it up into this part of the auction block at $1,500. I guess that's, I mean, just generally the power of the one-of-ones, and also when, people might not be paying as well. We have a 1958 PSA 3 Aquarella that goes for $1,800. We also have a 1/1 Jamal Musiala Superfractor that goes for 1900 there with an auto. Then in the second to last row here, we start with a Eusebio PSA 5.5 yellow name from the 63 Calciatore set. Goes for a tad under 2,000, which is a pretty low sale, generally speaking. When we go and look here, I'm sorting by all-time high price. It's going to be pretty jarring, but at the top here, you have a PSA 6 that did 18,000 back in 2022. Then in 2023, 6,000. And neither of these have the Velita back, which are the more rare of the yellow name, which is already the rare version. The blues are the frequently found ones, the yellows are the rare ones, and the yellow Velitas are the super rare ones. Neither of these are yellow Velitas, from what I can tell. They're just yellows. You do have this yellow name. You do have this yellow as well that went for 3,700. You have a yellow Velita that went for 3,000. Another one for 2,000, and ultimately, you find your way on down here. There's a 5 actually that went last year in January for nearly 2K, so it's around the same price as this one, but I will say that generally speaking, these are low sales. Even the most recent sale was a PSA 6 that went for 3,700, and this is a 5.5 that goes for 2K. A half grade difference, but to be fair, most people don't really care much for the half grades, so how much of a difference does it make? I don't know. Next to it, one of ones are just so hard to talk about because you can't really comp them. You can look at the sphere of one of ones that they have and just look at their best cards, but at the same time, you have to know what all the cards they have available are because some of them might not have sold. Nonetheless, we have a Super Fractor Kylian Mbappe, one of one here from Topps Superstars, so at least to me, seems like an insert within the top set. Goes for 2,500. We also have a Topps Chrome Competitions, UEFA Competitions, Superfractor, Martin Odegaard, PSA 9 that goes for 3,000. So again, super hard to draw any conclusions off of this because it just takes one buyer, or at least a couple in these scenarios. Arsenal, ton of collectors out there, and they're ready to go to bat for their guy, Martin Odegaard being one of their guys, so, makes sense, at least in my mind. I can sort of rationalize how it gets there. The Kylian Mbappe, at least to me, seems a little less meaningful, but obviously the player is more meaningful, so I get that as well. Also, PSA 10, I think, helps it here. Not that, in most scenarios it's going to matter because there's only one of them, but at the same time, people like 10s. If they can get them, they'd rather have them. And then finally, we go to the top 3, where we have yet another Kylian Mbappe, one of one, this being the Optic it's the Donruss Road to the World Cup, but this is the Optic within it, a one of one that in a PSA 9 goes for nearly 5,000. Then you have the Alifa PSA 1 Pele here that goes for 8,100 in a PSA 1. Keep in mind it does have a top 15% eye appeal sticker, and I guess if we go and look at it, it does look pretty good. The colors are nice. The edges and corners are at least nice for a 1 as well. In the back, it looks pretty good. So, for a 1, I can definitely see why that gets a bit of a premium. If we go look at the comps, it definitely does. This one goes for 8,100. Last sale was, what is that, 6,000? Before that, 4,000. So, Card Ladder used to do a lot better job at putting yellow dots on here where there were eye appeal stickers to let you know it's sort of, a bit of an outlier. They haven't done as good of a job lately. I'm not quite sure why, but, just take note of that. Over the last year, if we look, seemingly bottomed, but again, at the same time, this is a higher eye appeal sticker, or card, so keep that in mind. But even then, at least what impresses me is that we haven't seen a ton of these sell. Now, we have seen some in different grades sell, some higher grades, keep that in mind, but in a 1, earlier we were seeing one in January, one in March, another one in March, another one in April. So one every month, basically. And if we go back even further, that's the case last year as well, at least later in the year last year. You got a bunch of sales back here. And then we go from May until December without a sale. So I think that's the power also, 1, of eye appeal, but 2, having these slowly stop selling. And that was going to happen at some point. It's only a pop 32, and we had seen almost like 10 sales in just a short period of time. So that can only go so far, and seemingly the supply has sort of stopped dripping out and maybe has gone into collectors' hands. So good to see that there, and also good to see 108 watchers on that. One thing I did want to say is I feel hard done. If we look over here on the category side on the left, I don't really connect with Fanatics. I don't really have any working relation with them in any way. I just do these because I think it's fun content. You guys seem to enjoy them. But there's no soccer on this category list. You have to press see more to get it. The other ones that, they show hockey, which I looked at hockey. Hockey has like half the cards listed that soccer does. And comics is just egregious. I just clicked on comics. You're not seeing, you see one right there, okay? Are you seeing any others? Jesus Christ, give me a break. What does soccer have to do? And I think that just goes to show how much of an afterthought soccer is generally, that these companies don't even put soccer in the top, 10 categories when it's actually performing and doing what a top 10 category would, which would be have hundreds of cards every single week and go for good money. Like, to me, blows my mind. So just to say, if you guys want to have some beef with Fanatics, go ahead and message them and hate on them, I guess. Nonetheless, we'll finish it off here with the Topps Black Messi 1/1 that goes for $9,300 in a PSA 8. So this tops the auction block and by a $1,200 difference over the Pele. And in terms of the card, of course, 1/1, this is the Topps, not the Topps Chrome, which would be a super. This goes for $9,300, and wanted to look it up in regard to other Topps Messi stuff since he's come to Inter Miami. If we go ahead and look in terms of his top sales, the top one is this Topps Finest that went last year for $40,200. This being, a bit more premium of a release. This is Finest rather than Topps, which is a paper card. We also have a Topps Finest here, the prized footballers. Looks really, really good as well. Here you got the super. This goes for $12,000, and then this PSA 8 goes for $9,300. So, at least to me, sort of makes sense. Like, I know that this is a Finest insert, but at least, in terms of eye appeal, this one looks a lot more appealing to me than this does. Now, a Topps true 1/1 does sort of have more appeal of a base than something like this in my mind, but at the same time, I love the just eye appeal on that one as well. If we go a little bit lower, I think that this was probably a high price relatively. This was a 2024 Topps Now 1/1 with a sticker auto, nearly $9,000 on that one. So, and that was actually just within the last week. So pretty interesting to see these two go so quick. I'd rather be the buyer personally of the Topps on card rather than a Topps Now with a sticker auto. So I think that, this shows that this seemingly was a decent buy. There also was a Topps Chrome Red out of 5 PSA 9 that had gone for, what is that, $7,700. So seems like it went on the lower end of what it could have done, but you have to keep in mind that you also have probably other inserts out there along with the Chrome itself. So it's not going to do crazy numbers, but at the same time, $9,300 is a bit of a crazy number for a modern soccer item, so, it's all within its own perspective. With that said, that is it for this weekly, though. We'll take a peek at next one. I haven't looked yet, I don't believe. I'm also not logged in. I didn't even notice that. Not trying to hide anything, just, pure accident here. Beyond that, though, in terms of next week, 2022 Eminence Messi, we also have a white Kylian Mbappe along with the PSA 4 Titulares. We've seen a lot of these decent gray Titulares go recently. I don't think this is a rerun because it's off-center in a different way than I've almost ever seen. Beyond that, 8-5 Este, we also have a Kaboom Messi and a gold select auto of Cristiano Ronaldo. So pretty cool in regards to those. This Pele apparently is getting a rerun. I think that's the same Pele we just saw recently go. We also have an out of 99 gold Cristiano Ronaldo. A lot of other cool items in between as well. And should be a fun weekly. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Of course, as always, if you did, make sure to leave a like. Again, I appreciate it greatly. Anything you thought so high, low, maybe something you snagged, would love to see in a comment down below. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as they go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.